How are we doing, Incock family? I hope everyone is keeping well, trading safe. So today, again, another quick little video, right? Quick little video. Now, before I go into it, if you guys are enjoying the content that's been released recently, if you guys like the content on this page, give it a like, give it a share, right? It goes a long, long way, yeah? And as always, if you've not already done so, subscribe to this channel, yeah? Now, let's get into it. Quick little video, right? About having a systematic approach. Now, I get asked a lot about what do I do in the mornings, right, to mark up my charts, right? And honestly speaking, I keep it very simple, yeah? I believe simple is more powerful, right? Less is more, whatever you want to say, yeah? So I keep it very simple, but I keep it very systematic. Yeah? So let's have a look at this, yeah? So in the mornings, the first thing I do, right? The first thing I do is look at and identify market structure, right? Market structure. Now within that, I look at identifying my swing points, right? And identifying any breaks in market structure that's occurred, any significant breaks, right? So you're essentially identifying the range that you're working within, right? So the range, your swing range that you're working within, right? This is important to know, right? So once I've identified that, yeah, the second thing that's important to me is identifying my supply and demand zones, right? So here I'm simply identifying high probability zones, right? I'm looking to basically see where price could potentially react to, right? Where price could potentially come into, right? Which supply zone, which demand zone. Could I take a counter trend trade? Could I take a pro trend trade from here? Where is it, right? Identifying where those zones are and why those zones are high probability, right? So that's my second thing. Now, the third thing I'm looking at is liquidity, right? Now, liquidity for me is used as a confluence, right? It's really important to understand liquidity, right? And my big focus here is understanding the liquidity that's there to take and the liquidity that's there to target, right? It's similar, right, in concept, right, in terms of liquidity, right? But understanding, liquidity to take into my zones, right? And then if I'm trading away from those zones, where can I potentially target? Okay, so this is like my main frame, my foundation, right? Identifying market structure, and then my supply and demand, and then identifying liquidity points to take and then to target, right? And only then comes in my entry criteria, etc., right? And after that, obviously after taking the trade, is risk management. And this is literally as simple as I keep it, but it's very systematic, right? It's the same thing again and again, day after day, right? In its most basic form, this is what I look to do every single day. Yeah, so let's now jump onto the charts and look at a quick little example before I leave you guys to do your own testing. So I've just picked out this bit of the chart, right? Simply for example purposes, right? So the first thing that I'm doing, right, is identifying my swing points, right? So I've had this swing low and this swing high was created when we had broken a structure, right? Simply identifying my swing points, and this high had created this low, right? Now within that, I've already identified my major breaks in market structure. So at this point, I understand, right, the range that I'm playing within is from here to here. This is my swing range that I'm playing within, right? And this is where you can plot your discount premium tool, trying to see, where ideally you want to get into these cells, looking at these pro trend continuations, right? Now, identifying structure, identifying my range that I'm playing within, the next thing I'm focused on is my supply and demand, right? So in this instance, we could potentially, right, price could potentially come into this sort of refined zone in here. Yeah, it could come into this refined zone in here, which has created some sort of chain as such, right? Now we could also, and there's nothing wrong with having this as another POI, right? There's nothing wrong with having this as another POI, right? Now, like I said, I'm not going into how to select these POIs or anything like that, but I'm saying the second thing I do is identify my supply and demand zones, right? Now at this point, the next thing I look at, right? So I've identified potentially I could trade away from here, I could trade away from here, right? Looking to target these week lows, right? I've identified that. Where am I looking to trade from, right? Now, from here, it's identifying liquidity to take liquidity target, right? So this could be potential liquidity, right, to come into these zones here. This POI, right, this zone here could be used as liquidity to come higher into this zone potentially, right? So this is why once price gets into our zones, right, we're not just jumping in, we're waiting for a confirmation, right? We're waiting for a confirmation, right? So then if I just play price out, at this point, this is where I'm looking at my entries. I'm scaling down, I'm looking at my entries, right? And let's say I might take a sell from here, right, on a 1 minute. It might be a loss, it might be a break even, I might have took a 5-hour, whatever it is, right? Okay, whatever it is, yeah? And at that point, price comes higher, right? So this was used as liquidity, right, to come in higher, right? Completely fine, right? So let's say I've got into a trade here, right? I've got into a second trade here. Let's say this one here was a loss, completely fine. I've got into a trade here, right? So I've looked at and carried out my entry procedures. And at that point, right, so everything's clear to me. The thing I need to be most clear about is where am I getting out? Where am I targeting? Right? It might be these lows here, right? You might target the overall week low, right? Where are you targeting? Where are you getting out? Now, it's so important to understand where you're going to get out before you get into the trade, right? After you get into the trade, don't be thinking, am I getting out at X amount, or am I getting out at this structure? Am I doing that? Am I doing this? That's too much, right? You need to know clearly where you're going to get out, right? So it's important to know where you're getting in, but I would say it's even more important to know where you're getting out, right? Because you don't want to give back to the markets unnecessarily. Yeah, so it's so important to understand where you're getting out. So if I just play price out here, so here I can already see I could potentially have a re-entry here, right? Even if I didn't get in here, I could potentially have a re-entry here, but that's for another day, another topic, another day, right? And then, so let's say you decide to get out here or have partials here, that's fine, right? And then leave the main position down to the week low, that's fine. But as long as you know these things, yeah? So guys, let's just recap before finishing off, right? It's so important to have a systematic approach, right? Identify your market structure. Identify swing points. Has there been any breaks in market structure? Identify the swing range that you're working within, right? Your discount premium, etc., etc. Yeah. From then, build on that. Build on that to identify your strong supply and demand zones, right? Now, you might have one, you might have two, you might have three, right? Identify those strong supply and demand zones. If it meets your rule to be a supply or a demand zone, have it drawn out. Understand price could react from there. Okay, it could take that zone out, right? But we wait for confirmation, right? Number 3 is identify the liquidity that's there to take into your zones and the liquidity that's there to target once price is within your zone. Yeah, and then obviously number 4 and number 5, entry criteria and risk management. Yeah, risk management will be very, very important, right? Like I said, it's important to understand where you're getting in, but it's even more important to understand where you're going to get out. Yeah, so I hope that sort of helped, right? Now, I didn't go into too much detail trying to overcomplicate anything, yeah? But this is a basic format that you could use, basic foundation that you can use to build upon, right? To build upon, yeah? So I hope that helped. Now, if you guys have any further questions, just let me know. The Telegram link is down below in the description. The Instagram link is also there in the description. I will reply to your queries as and when I see it. And yeah, like I said before, if you've not subscribed, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you on the next video.